I remember standing in my corner office on the 28th floor looking out at the city skyline as the sun dipped below the buildings. 7 years of grinding, sacrificing, and building something from absolutely nothing had finally paid off. My company was worth over $1 million. We had 32 employees, and I felt unstoppable. But when my phone rang that evening and I saw Mom's name flash across the screen, I expected her usual pride-filled voice asking about my week. Instead, what came through that receiver shattered everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. She gave me an ultimatum that would force me to choose between the business I had bled for and the family I had always supported. Before I dive into how my own mother became my biggest adversary, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe, because this story about family loyalty and betrayal will show you that blood is not always thicker than business. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. Growing up in a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, Ohio, life was never easy, but it was simple. My dad passed away in a car accident when I was just 13 years old. One rainy Tuesday afternoon changed everything for our family. Mom Linda was left to raise my younger brother Troy and me on her own. Troy was 3 years younger than me, and from the beginning we could not have been more different. While I spent my teenage years working part-time jobs at the local grocery store and mowing lawns to help with bills, Troy spent his time on video games and hanging out with friends who had no direction. Mom worked double shifts as a nurse to keep food on the table and the lights on. I saw how exhausted she was every night, so I made it my mission to be the responsible one. I helped with everything around the house, made sure Troy did his homework, and saved every penny I earned. Troy, on the other hand, seemed immune to the struggle. Mom never pushed him the way she pushed me. She would say things like, "He is still young, he needs time to figure things out." Even when he dropped out of Ohio State University after just 1 year, because he said college was not for him, she made excuses. At 22, I graduated with a degree in marketing. I was proud, but I knew the real work was just beginning. I spent 2 years working for a small advertising firm in Columbus, learning everything I could about digital marketing, client relations, and business development. The pay was terrible, barely enough to cover my rent and student loan payments, but the experience was priceless. By the time I turned 24, I knew I was ready to take the leap. I started my own digital marketing consulting firm. The beginning was brutal. I worked out of Mom's garage because I could not afford office space. Every morning I woke up at 5 a.m. to cold call potential clients before the rest of the world started their day. I survived on instant ramen black coffee I made in a cheap pot, and the dream that this would work. Mom was supportive at first. She would bring me sandwiches while I worked late into the night, building websites and creating marketing campaigns for tiny local businesses that could barely afford my already discounted rates. Troy thought I was insane. "You are wasting your time, Heath," he would say, while lounging on the couch playing his games. "Just get a real job like everyone else." He was 21 at the time, still living with Mom, still unemployed, still going nowhere. But I did not let his words bother me. I was too focused on surviving those first brutal years. The first 3 years were a test of everything I had. There were months when I barely made enough to pay for my business license and website hosting. I thought about quitting more times than I can count, but something inside me refused to give up. In year 4, everything changed. I landed a contract with a regional restaurant chain that needed a complete digital overhaul. The contract was worth $60,000 more money than I had made in the previous 2 years combined. Suddenly, I could afford to hire 2 employees. My buddy from college, Garrett, became my first real hire as financial director. By year 5, I had moved into an actual office space in downtown Cleveland with 10 employees. We were handling clients across Ohio and starting to expand into Pennsylvania and Michigan. Year 6 brought even more growth. 20 employees, contracts with major retail brands, and revenue that made my younger self's dreams look small. And now in year 7, at 31 years old, I was running a company that generated over $1 million annually with 32 talented people on my team. I made sure to take care of Mom throughout this journey. I paid off the mortgage on her house, which had been weighing her down for years. I renovated her kitchen and bathroom, replaced her old car with a reliable sedan, and sent her on a vacation to Florida she had always dreamed about. She told everyone in the neighborhood about her successful son, and I felt proud to make her life easier after everything she had sacrificed for us. Troy, meanwhile, was still at home with Mom. 30 years old, no stable job, spending his days bouncing between part-time gigs that lasted a few weeks before he quit or got fired. He never thanked me for supporting Mom, never acknowledged that my success meant he could live rent-free without pressure. I told myself it did not matter. Family was family, and I was just doing what an older brother should do. About 6 months before everything exploded, Troy started asking me more questions about my business. At first, I thought maybe he was finally showing interest in doing something with his life. I was actually happy about it. He would call me and ask about revenue streams, profit margins, how many clients we had, what our accounts looked like. I answered honestly because I thought I was encouraging him to pursue his own path. "So, you are pulling in like what, 100,000 a month?" he asked one afternoon over the phone. "Some months more, some less," I told him. "It depends on the contracts and client retention." "That is insane, bro. You are killing it." The pride I heard in his voice felt genuine, so I kept sharing. I even showed him our financial statements when he asked, thinking transparency might inspire him. Looking back, I realize how naive that was. Then Mom started with the hints. "Troy is getting older, Heath. You should help him find something stable." She would bring it up every time I visited, which was at least twice a week. I understood her concern. What mother wants to see her 30-year-old son going nowhere? So I made Troy an offer. I told him he could work for my company as a junior marketing associate. The starting salary would be $50,000 a year, which was generous considering he had zero experience and no college degree. His response shocked me. "Work for you, like as your employee? No way, man. That is weird." I tried to explain that everyone starts somewhere, that even I had worked under people before starting my own thing, but he was not interested. "I am not taking orders from my brother," he said with this dismissive laugh that made my blood pressure spike. I let it go. I figured if he did not want the opportunity, that was his choice. But Mom did not let it go. About 3 months before the final confrontation, Mom's tone changed. She stopped asking and started telling. "You need to do more for your brother," she said during one of my visits. "You are his older brother. You have all this success, and he has nothing. Do you not feel any responsibility, Mom?" "I have tried to help him," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I offered him a job. I have given him money when he asked. I paid for his classes when he said he wanted to learn graphic design, and he quit after 2 weeks. What more can I do? He needs a real opportunity," she insisted. "Not just a job. Something that sets him up for life like you have." That conversation left me unsettled. What did she mean by something that sets him up for life? I had built my company from absolutely nothing. I had earned every single thing I had. The idea that Troy deserved something handed to him just because we shared DNA felt wrong, but I tried to understand Mom's perspective. She was a mother worried about her son's future. I could respect that, even if I disagreed with her approach. The pressure intensified over the next few weeks. Mom started calling me more frequently, and every conversation circled back to Troy. Sometimes she would cry, telling me she was worried about what would happen to him when she was gone. Other times she would get angry, accusing me of being selfish and forgetting where I came from. "I am not forgetting anything," I told her during one particularly heated call. "I have helped this family more than anyone. I paid off your house, Mom. I take care of you. But I cannot just give Troy something he has not earned." "He is your brother," she said, her voice cold. "That should be enough." One afternoon, Mom and Troy showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant looked nervous when she buzzed me. "Your mom and brother are here. They did not have an appointment, but they said it is important." I told her to send them in. Troy walked into my office looking around like he was appraising everything. The artwork on the walls, the expensive desk. I had finally been able to afford the view of the city. "Nice setup you got here," he said with that same tone that always rubbed me wrong. Mom got straight to it. "We need to talk privately." I sent Garrett out of the room and closed the door. Mom sat down across from my desk, and Troy stood by the window with his hands in his pockets. "Heath, I'm going to be direct," Mom said. "I think you should make Troy a partner in your company. Split it 50-50. He deserves a share of what you have built." For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. He is your brother. You should give him half ownership. My mind raced. Mom, I have spent 7 years building this company. 7 years of 18-hour days of risking everything, of sacrifice. Troy has not contributed a single thing. How can you possibly ask me to give him half? Because he is family, she said, simply, as if that explained everything. Because that is what family does. I looked at Troy, waiting for him to say something, anything, to acknowledge how insane this request was. But he just stood there with this expectant look on his face, like he actually believed he deserved this. I took a deep breath and chose my words carefully. I appreciate that you want to help Troy, Mom. But I cannot do what you are asking. It would not be fair to me, to my employees, or even to Troy in the long run. What I can do is offer him a position with room for growth if he proves himself. Mom stood up, her face hard. So, that is your answer. You are going to say no to your own family. I am saying no to something that makes no sense, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She walked to the door and turned back. You are being selfish, Heath. I raised you better than this. They left, and I sat in my empty office feeling like I had just been punched in the stomach. Garrett came back in a few minutes later. You okay, man? He asked. I do not even know, I admitted. The next 2 months were torture. Mom called me almost every day. Sometimes she would cry and beg, telling me I was tearing the family apart. Other times she would be angry, saying I had changed, that success had made me cold and heartless. Every conversation ended the same way, with her demanding I make Troy a partner and me refusing. I tried to find a middle ground. I offered to create a management position for Troy with a starting salary of $50,000 and clear metrics for advancement. If he worked hard and showed competence, he could potentially earn his way into a partnership over several years. Mom rejected it immediately. He does not want to be your employee, she said. He wants to be your equal. But he is not my equal in this business, I said, my frustration finally breaking through. He has no experience, no track record, nothing. You cannot just declare someone a partner because they are related to you. Then I guess you have made your choice, she said coldly. The stress was affecting everything. I was not sleeping well. I snapped at employees over small mistakes. Garrett pulled me aside one day and asked what was going on. I told him everything, and his advice was clear. Do not give in, he said firmly. This is your company. You built it. If you hand over half to someone who did not earn it, you will resent him forever. And honestly, it could destroy the business. I knew he was right, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. This was my mother, the woman who raised me, who sacrificed so much when Dad died. How could I stand firm against her? But I also knew that what she was asking was wrong. And somewhere deep inside, I suspected there was more to this story than just a mother wanting to help her son. Everything came to a head on a Friday evening in late September. Mom called me and said I needed to come to the house immediately, that there was something important we needed to discuss as a family. The tone of her voice told me this was not going to be a casual conversation. I drove to her house with a knot in my stomach. When I walked in, Troy was already sitting on the couch. Mom was in her chair, and the atmosphere felt like a courtroom. Sit down, Heath, Mom said. I sat. She did not waste time. I have thought about this a lot, and I have made a decision. You have two choices. You can give Troy half of your company, making him an equal partner, or I will disown you. You will no longer be my son. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually felt dizzy. You are threatening to disown me. It is not a threat, she said, with an eeriness calm.